Hey guys! Now I'm sure you're aware of shortcuts. It's literally a link to a file, and now I have opened this random file. Well, I opened the file itself rather than the shortcut. And if I delete the shortcut, yeah, it disappears. Makes sense. Okay, what about a file instead? Well, it also opens that file. What if I wanted to have two things at two places at the same time without copying them or without them taking up twice as much space? Am I asking for too much? No, actually not, because this is a feature. It's called a symlink. Essentially, this is a way to have one thing in two or more places at the same time. The only thing that is similar to a shortcut is the fact that once you delete the shortcut, nothing happens. You just delete the shortcut. Same about the symlink. If you delete the symlink, the other file stays. The symlink gets deleted. But the cool thing about symlinks, if that one was that, if I make some changes in this file, these changes will also be made at the same time in the symlink. So let me show you an example. Just now I created a symlink for this file, one of my registers. So when I make changes to it and save them, nothing happens. Great, amazing, incredible. Oh, actually, no, my bad. It just took surprisingly long. Usually, it's immediate once you make a change in the original file, and the one on the left is the original file. The file that is the symlink also has those changes. Now, the cool thing about symlinks is that they're not shortcuts, duh, but the positive that you get from that is you can link the path to the symlink to some program, and it will treat it as an actual file. So something that I actually do, let's go to my VS Code settings. This file is not a real file, it's a symlink. A symlink to my different file in my .files repository. This is the original, this is the symlink. And once again, if I make changes to the original file, and this is the original file, I will also make changes to the other one. Let's do something safe, like a comment, so I don't break my VS Code. And as you can see, the symlink on the left also got those changes. What's the positive of that? Well, I want to automatically track all of my changes in my settings, in my key bindings, and some other files that I also have as my .files. There are somewhat of a lot of stuff that I want to keep track of. So anytime that I make a change on VS Code, it will be automatically tracked by Git. But I need to actually give a proper file to VS Code itself so it works correctly. And I can straight up just give it a symlink and it will work as well. So how do we do this? How do we make a symlink? Well, use this command, make link. Make link, then the full path to the symlink, then the full path to the target, meaning the original file. And then it will say this, and you're like, okay, great. One important thing though, to create symlinks on Windows, you have to run your shell with admin privileges. How do you do that? You press Windows R, cmd.exe, and then Control-Shift-Enter. It will ask you for this, you press yes, and yeah. Or just if you're using Windows Terminal, you can do what? You can Control-Click or Control-Enter. That also runs a profile as administrator. So hell yeah, we've created a symlink. And one cool thing about them is that you can also create symlinks for entire folders. So you do make link /D, and then you do the same idea. First the full path to the symlink, now it's a folder, and then the full path to the original folder. There's a slight difference in how they work though, and it's the fact that if you delete a file, it deletes on both the original folder and the symlink folder. So when you're tracking a file, if you delete the symlink, you only delete the symlink. But if you're tracking a folder, that folder is symlink. Wherever you delete or create files, that change will be updated in both places. So that's an important thing to remember. Well, this is technically everything that you need to know to use symlinks on Windows. However, there are more things that I feel like make symlinks incredibly useful when they are already very useful. So, are you a C# developer? If you're not, come look at this atrocity. Let's go to a folder which is net7 blah blah blah. Let's see what files it has, and it has the executable file of my project. So my project is a chore tracker. It tracks my chores and whatever I did to them. So I just went to the proper path where that exe is contained so I could run it. Meaning that usually to run this file, I need to type in this huge ass path and then the argument, which is ridiculous and awful. I already covered a bit of this on my video about the path environmental variable, but I did mention that I had a better solution, and well, exactly. My better solution is using a symlink. The fact that I was typing in the exe right here in the correct folder was actually a lie. If we go to literally any other folder, that will also work. How? Because I made a symlink. Let's go to binaries. It's a directory that I put into my path and see what is here. See how chore tracker has a different color? Well, that's because it's a symlink to the actual exe. What's cool about this is that I can still work on the project in the usual terms, build it, like compile it, change it, and the changes in the exe will be reflected in the symlink. So what I'm actually calling right here is the symlink. It acts as a file, and since binaries, so this directory is in my path, it looks through these 4 files. Ting, amazing script that saved me. I have a video on that as well. And Win32 Yang. So these 4 files are in the path, so I can run them without typing in their full path. However, C# has this annoying thing that I can't just take this exe file and move it elsewhere, because it depends on a bunch of different files in the actual project. So I created a symlink to it in a folder that is in the path, and now I can just call it like this normally. However, I didn't delete it. I have a video on C# where I teach how to use it essentially in your day-to-day life, and in that video I fucked up massively. If you're interested, you can watch it. But in that video I made this symlink magic, and for some reason it didn't work. I was confused. Well, the reason why it didn't work is because I tried to make a Linux symlink, and that's why it didn't work. So still, we need to make a Windows symlink because in this situation we depend on Windows, and now it works as expected. Now Linux symlinks. The ideas are very much the same. Linux symlinks are a bit better, I think. I heard that somewhere. Don't credit me for that. So the command is ln-s for symbolic. If you remove that, you make a hard link. What that is, I don't know, but it sounds very funny. Well, okay, I kind of know, so I'll explain the more or less what that is. When you make a symbolic link, and a symlink in full is a symbolic link, every part of the system still recognizes, well, not every, but most of the system recognizes that, okay, like you're playing tricks on me, but I'll let you. When you make a hard link, nobody knows. It might as well be a file. It just is another file that points to the same area in memory. But your system couldn't fucking figure it out, but so it thinks it is a straight up file. It doesn't even consider it as a symlink. The negative of that is that you're not sure what is a symlink and what is not, which is why I didn't show you how to make a hard link in this video, because for pretty much everything, a symlink is already more than enough, and it's easier to figure out. So, ln-s, and remember that in Windows first, it's the symlink and then the target. On Linux is the opposite. First is the target and then the symlink, and that confuses me to no end. It's so difficult to remember. So if you only use one system, you're gonna have an easier time doing this. But yeah, same idea, you specify the paths, and here you go. And to have a symlink to a directory, let's actually look. I guess you use the -d option, and here you go. So in Windows it's /D, on Linux it's -d. So I showed how symlinks are useful to me on the Windows side. Obviously they are also useful on the Linux side for me. If we LA this, you can see that Z shell RC and this file are also symlinks. And if we go to my dot files once again and go to Z shell RC, this is an original file, and the one that you see here is a symlink. So whenever Linux needs to read the Z shell RC file, it just looks here, the usual path that it expects, but the real file is in my dot files repository. The reason why the real file needs to be there and not in its original state is because Git seems to be the only one that recognizes the tomfoolery. If we try to git commit and git push a symlink, it won't be recognized as a file, it will be recognized as a symlink, and it will not work. Which is exactly why I have originals in my Git repositories and fakes in the actual places where they are expected. So that took me some time to figure out, but here you go. You don't have to figure it out yourself, you just have the info. So I hope it's going to be useful to you to use it. And if it was, press a like, type some comment, maybe have a question or suggestion. Definitely subscribe so you don't miss my content, but most importantly, stay fresh, cheese bags, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!